All right, so this was from Tuesday of last week. Hopefully you had a chance to try to solve these quadratics with a different method than factoring. Factoring was the first thing you guys did last Monday and what we went over on Friday. All right, so if factoring is, you're having trouble with factoring, you want to try completing the square. All right, now, just like with factoring, every time you do this, it should always be what values for x are going to make it 0. All right, always, no matter what. Now, if I look at factoring, and I made the box. You guys remember that box from Friday? Yes? Okay. Let's do that. I'll put the sum. Okay. What's going to go at the top of my box? This 10 right here. And what do they have to add up to? This 10 in the middle. So do you guys know factors of 10? What are some factors of 10? 2 times 5. Do those add to 10? No, 2 plus 5 is 7. What are the other factors of 10? 10 times 1. And what happens when you add 10 and 1 together? You get 11. So am I able to add up to 10? No. So is this factorable? No. So it's not factorable. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do it, but that's where you need another method called completing the square. Okay? So here's the first step for completing the square. I want you to move this 10 to the other side. What happens when you move that last 10 to the other side? What does it become? A negative 10. Now, notice I left space. Do you guys see how I left space here? All right, I left space because I'm going to put something in there that's going to ultimately let me factor it. Okay? So I'm leaving space so that way I can put in my own number so I can factor it. All right, so what I want you to write at one of the corners is I want you to write b over 2 squared in parentheses. That's the number you're going to add to both sides. So that way you can complete the square. All right? So in this case, what is b? What is my b value in this problem? This 10 right here. What happens when I do 10 over 2? 5. What's 5 squared? 25. So I'm going to write plus 25. Now you guys learned in middle school, if you do something to one side of an equation, you got to do it to the other. So I also have to add 25 over here. Questions right now? I'm going to pause. Are there any questions? If you're like, where did I get the 25? That would be the time to ask. Yeah. Okay. So the b value is 10. So whatever this number is, I'm putting it where it says b. Divided by 2, you get 5. 5 squared is 25. So this 25, will it be 25 every time you do these problems? No, it'll be a different number. Okay? Good question. All right. What does the right side become? What does the right side become? What's negative 10 plus 25? 15. Very good. Okay, now here is probably the most difficult thing to understand. So I really want you to listen to this. Listen to my voice here. Okay, I told you at the beginning, could we factor it? Could we factor it at the beginning? No. But now I have a different thing I want to factor. The different thing, yay, I want to factor. Do you guys see how I still want to add up to 10? But now what are my factors going to multiply to give me? 25. Do you know factors of 25 that add to 10? 5 times 5. Now, do you think it's a coincidence that they are the same? Do you think it's a coincidence that they are the same number? No. Will it be the same number every time you do this? Yes, it will. All right? These are perfect squares. Yes? Excellent. Yes, they are perfect squares. So, yeah, so it's like 5 times 5, so the same number. That's why you square it. What's up, Danny? I'm sorry.
So how did you get 25 again?
So this is my new number. So I got up by taking this b value of 10. 10 over 2 is 5. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. Okay? All right, so if that's the case and I have 5 and 5, most students write x plus 5 times x plus 5, like this. And this is from Friday if you were here. Yes? Do you remember that from Friday? Okay, but do you see how they're the same? See how they're the same? Is that a coincidence? No, they'll be the same every time. So actually what I tell students is don't write that. Write it like this. You see how that is the same? I put one factor, but I put squared because there's technically two of them multiplying together. Equals 15. All right, I'm going to pause again. Questions? Why did I do that? Because now, if they're the same and I have this square, I can use a function in math to get rid of that square. You ready to show you that? Okay. So I want to ultimately solve for x, whatever that is. All right, but it's stuck in these parentheses that are squared. Do you know how to get rid of something that's squared? Do you know what function in math you can use to get rid of something squared? Do you know the inverse operation of squaring something? Not dividing, no. Multiplying and dividing are the inverse operations there. Somebody said it? The square root. Nice. Do you guys remember that symbol? The square root? I just took the square root of the left side of the equation. Just like in middle school. What does that mean I have to do to the right side? The same thing. I'm going to take the square root of 15. I'm going to pause again. So you take the square root of both sides. Everyone okay? All right, now here's kind of the fun part about this. If you take the square root of anything squared, they're inverse operations, so they just go away. So if they just go away, what is left on the left side? X plus 5. Okay? You'll notice no more parentheses, no more square. All that stuff's gone. Okay? Now what's on the right side? Is it 15 anymore? No, it's the, bless you, the square root of 15. Now here's something I'm going to throw in there that you probably have never seen before. Plus or minus. All right, the reason is, do you see what I drew in red? Do you see what I drew in red, that square root? I took the square root of both sides. If I take the square root of both sides, that means I have to put a plus or minus. I'll show you why. Do you know what numbers make this true? What number, when you square it, makes 9? Most students tell me 3. But is that the only one? No. If you do negative 3 squared, that's also 9. So it's not just the positive 3, but it's also the negative 3. Oh, look at that, plus or minus. Okay? So whenever you do this, if you personally take the square root, sorry for yelling, then you must write plus or minus. Okay? So I'm looking for that today. Plus or minus today. Everybody good? All right, now we're almost done. You're really close, but I wanted to say x equals. Do you see how it says plus 5 here? What happens when I move it over? Very good. So here is the answer. Negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 15. And you can just leave it like that. All right? You can leave it like that. But if you wanted to, again, you can leave it like this. Totally okay with that. Some of you now, if you wanted to type that into the calculator, you could do negative 5 plus the square root of 15. Because remember, there's 2 answers here. And hit, if you want a decimal, you know the 2 arrows above enter? 2 arrows? No? Okay. It'll give you the decimal. So here's one answer, negative 1.13. And the other one is negative 5 minus the square root of 15, which is negative 8.87. Now, do you need to do this last part? No, but I'm trying to show students that these are just numbers. This is just 2 numbers. If I take this number and plug it in where it says x, what do you think is going to happen? I'm going to get 0. If I take the other number and plug it in where it says x, I'm going to get 0, like we did on Friday. They're just decimals, so I just leave it like this. Here's what I'm looking for today. Right there. All right, questions? No? No questions? Yes. It'll always be plus a number. It just won't always be 25. Just take a quick peek. What do you see about this b value? See, that's negative 6. It'll still be plus, right? Negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. Negative 3 squared is still a positive, but a positive 9. So you'll be adding 9 to both sides. But because it is negative, do you guys see how number 2 is negative? Do you see how I have x plus 5? You'll have x minus a number. Minus a number. All right, are you ready?